What's in your wallet? Whether it's Samuel L. Jackson, Spike Lee, Jennifer Garner, Charles Barkley, or that one generic Capital One guy, or unsolicited plug here, those awesome SandCloud towels. It seems that Capital One is in a lot of people's wallets. That is not, however, what is in Donald Trump's wallet. Because on Friday in court, Capital One once again defended their move to kick the entire Trump organization's money out of their bank. And for 4 years, Donald Trump has told anyone that would listen that Capital One kicked his company off of its banking platforms because of politics. He says it was because he was inconvenient. He says it was because of January 6th. But Friday, Capital One said, essentially, no, it's just your money. And this is the first time in American history that banks have said this on the record about a current president's business. And it's not this case's first trip through the system either, right? 2 earlier versions of this same lawsuit from Donald Trump and his organization have already been tossed out by a judge. The Trump organization keeps rewriting complaints and filing them. Meanwhile, for their credit, Capital One keeps showing up with facts. And look, quick timeline to catch you up. 2021, Capital One quietly closed more than 300 bank accounts that were tied to the Trump organization. In 2025, Eric Trump and the Trump organization sued Capital One, claiming political retaliation, an attack on free speech, and seeking millions of dollars in damages. And yet on Friday, Capital One asked the judge to throw the whole case out, and in doing it, finally explained why they kicked Donald Trump out of their banks. It's because their anti-money laundering team spent months, in their words, reviewing the accounts. And their filing says, quote, documents and plaintiffs' own allegations make clear that Capital One closed plaintiffs' accounts for anti-money laundering reasons, end quote. Yes, the bank is saying that Trump's own lawsuit, his own paperwork, his own filings, back up their money laundering explanation. Donald Trump sued Capital One and in the process helped them write their defense. And look, I want you to think about the last time your own bank flagged something on your account, maybe a weird wire, maybe a cash deposit that was suspicious. It doesn't usually end up in a lawsuit. But if you're Donald Trump, the one thing you can never be is wrong, including in the face of factual financial records. And look, banks, they make mistakes and they do a lot of things wrong. And they have been sued and lost over plenty of things. But this is different, because if a bank's own compliance team can see something serious enough to close 300 accounts with activities taking place over years, should that be brought to federal regulators? I mean, look, this isn't like me when I spend too much on like a signed game-used David Ortiz bat and the bank goes, you sure about that? This is a pattern over a long period of time and over hundreds of bank accounts. And so tell me in the comments what you think. Is this something that should have been investigated by another federal agency? Now, to be clear, Capital One doesn't say that Donald Trump or his organization laundered money. They are very careful to not say that he laundered money. But what they are saying is that their compliance team saw transaction patterns that were serious enough, and they were common enough to the federal banking red flags that are out there, that they didn't want to be in business with Donald Trump anymore. Yeah, look, that is a lower bar than saying a crime occurred, but it is also not nothing. And you may recall that last August, Donald Trump tried to fight this by signing an executive order banning what he calls discriminatory debanking. He is trying to build an actual federal policy around the idea that banks were targeting him for political reasons. You got to remember that this is also the same man that apparently just scored a lifetime of no IRS audits where he doesn't even have to pay his taxes, essentially. But meanwhile, his own bank in a courtroom says the real reason had nothing to do with politics at all. And this isn't the only bank, because it seems that compliance officers at Deutsche Bank flagged Trump-related transactions years ago. Executives reportedly looked at those flags and did nothing. Deutsche, they deny that account for the record, but the reports are still out there. So you have one bank completely ignoring red flags, and they have not been attacked by Donald Trump, whereas the one that did act got sued for it. And that's why I'm going to ask you to hit that notification bell, especially if this is the first time you're hearing this story, because I promise you that this story will continue, and it did not and will not get a fraction of the coverage it deserves. And if you really want to support our efforts to keep the truth flowing, consider becoming a member.